Welcome to Quantumly Kinky with Dr. Veda, where we talk about sex, Eastern medicine, and character development for the multidimensional you. Episode 54, Pleasure, Power, and the Collapse of Standardized Healing. Welcome back to Quantumly Kinky, where modern sexuality meets ancient medicine, and every episode helps you to rewire your body for more pleasure, power, presence, and turn on. I am your host, Dr. Veda, and before we begin today's episode, I wanted to just say hi, because I know I disappeared for a few weeks. I have been deeply immersed in building and launching my private practice, the Turned On Clinic in San Diego, which has honestly been one of the most exciting, humbling, regulating, and creatively expansive experiences of my life. Stepping fully into Dr. Veda in the physical world and not just online has taken a lot of energy and intention these last few weeks. But I'm finally finding my rhythm, and my intention moving forward is to return to recording weekly or bi-weekly transmissions here on Quantumly Kinky. Because these conversations, they matter to me. This podcast for the last year has always been about helping people reconnect to their body, their sexual vitality, their pleasure, their nervous system, and their own experience of being human. And honestly, opening my Turned On Clinic has only deepened that mission even more. So, with that said, let's get into today's episode. Today's episode is about remembering something humanity used to know. That being alive on this time-ship Earth is an experience, an experiment, a relationship. And our bodies are not machines to suppress into compliance. Our bodies are a vessel, a living intelligence, a constantly adapting ecosystem of memory, emotion, chemistry, electricity, intuition, stress, environment, touch, nourishment, meaning, and consciousness. And somewhere along the way, I think we forgot that. Or maybe more accurately, we were trained to forget it. Because for most of human history, medicine was experiential. People observed nature. They observed the body. They observed what happened when grief stayed trapped inside too long. What happened when communities disconnected. What happened when someone lost their purpose? What happened when sexuality disappeared? And what happened when the seasons changed? Medicine was not separated from natural life. Ancient Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, indigenous healing systems, herbalism, movement practices, fasting rituals, hydrotherapy, breath work, energy medicine, spiritual hygiene. These systems emerged from thousands of years of direct observation of the human experience, not randomized controlled trials, but observation, experience, pattern recognition. And then something shifted. Modern Western medicine became the dominant authority on what counts as, quote, real healing. But before I continue, let me say something clearly. Modern medicine has done extraordinary things. Emergency medicine saves lives. Surgical innovation saves lives. Antibiotics changed history. Advanced imaging, trauma care, anesthesia, infectious disease treatment, these are all incredible achievements. So this episode is not anti-modern medicine, no. But it is anti-monopoly of perspective. Because somewhere in the rise of industrialized medicine, we lost the humility to admit that human health may be way more complex than what can be isolated inside a laboratory variable. The scientific method became one of the most dominant frameworks for determining, quote, truth in medicine. And don't get me wrong, the scientific method is useful, right? It matters. It can protect people from fraud and dangerous claims, but it also has limitations because not everything deeply human is easy to measure. You cannot fully quantify meaning. You cannot perfectly quantify placebo. And you cannot perfectly quantify intimacy or spiritual peace or erotic aliveness or purpose or the impact of touch or what happens when a person finally feels safe in their body again. You can't measure those all the time in a lab. Yet, we know those things affect health. We know that loneliness increases mortality risk. We know that chronic stress changes inflammation, changes hormones, digestion, and immune function. We know that trauma reshapes the nervous system. We know that depression can manifest physically. And we know that belief changes biology. And still, modern systems often treat the body like this disconnected parts instead of an interconnected experience. And cue in the industrial era. And this part is important historically. In the early 1900s, the Rockefeller family became heavily involved in shaping medical education in the United States. And how did they do that? Well, through enormous philanthropic funding. At the same time, the Flexner Report of 1910 radically transformed medical education standards in America. Many schools that were teaching herbal medicine, eclectic medicine, naturopathy, holistic approaches, or delegitimized because they did not fit the emerging biomedical model. Now, some of those schools probably needed reform. Maybe they were dangerous practices and inconsistent standards, sure. But the outcome also created a system that heavily prioritized pharmaceutical intervention, pathology-focused treatment, and profit-driven institutional medicine. So the result? Well, medicine became increasingly centralized, increasingly standardized, increasingly industrialized, and increasingly disconnected from the idea that humans are wildly individual. Because here's the truth. There is no universal standard human experience. Two people can eat the same foods, take the same medication, experience the same trauma, and respond completely differently. Some people thrive in cold climates, others deteriorate. Some people need more movement, others need stillness. Some heal through structure, others heal through creativity and freedom of expression. And yet, we inherited a healthcare system that often treats human beings like statistical averages. Meanwhile, we are the sickest we've been in many years. Chronic disease is exploding. Autoimmune conditions are rising. Infertility rates are rising. Depression and anxiety skyrocketing. People are exhausted, disconnected, inflamed, overmedicated, touch starved, and spiritually numb. And despite spending more on healthcare than almost any nation on earth, millions of United States citizens are still profoundly unwell. That should at least invite us into curiosity. What's going on? Not this blind rejection of medicine, but curiosity. Because maybe health is much bigger than symptom management. Maybe health includes vitality, desire, pleasure, purpose, connection, nervous system regulation, sunlight, rhythm, community, meaning, sexual energy, creativity, sleep, touch, breath, environment, and emotional truth. Maybe health is not just about surviving, but maybe health is about being turned on by our lives again. And this is a huge part of my mission. Not to tell people what to believe, but to reopen the possibility that you are allowed to participate in your own healing experience. You are allowed to ask questions. You are encouraged to be an active role and collaborator in your healing. And you are allowed to experiment responsibly. You're allowed to try acupuncture, red light therapy, meditation, breath work, herbal medicine, strength training, cold plunges, somatic therapy, psychedelic assisted therapy, nutrition changes, frequency medicine, prayer, dance, silence, rest. You are allowed to become curious about your own vessel, because your body is giving you feedback constantly. And no one will ever care about your health more than you. No doctor, no practitioner, no system. Which means that becoming your own advocate is one of the most important things that you can do in your life. Today, I'm encouraging you to learn how to read studies, learn how your hormones work, learn how your nervous system responds to stress. Learn what foods make you feel alive versus inflamed. Learn your cycles, your patterns, your emotional triggers, your energy rhythms. Use experts, use medicine, use diagnostics, and use technology. Yes, but do not abandon your own discernment. Because the future of medicine should not be about blind obedience. It should be about informed participation, informed collaboration. And honestly, I know that humanity is craving this return. I see it every day in my clinic. People want to feel connected to their bodies again. They want to feel empowered instead of managed. And they want to feel like healing is something that they participate in, not something done to them. They want to feel erotically alive. And this is why so many people are exploring integrative medicine right now. not because they are anti-science, but because they are hungry for wholeness, for something different. And maybe the next evolution of healthcare is not choosing between ancient wisdom or modern medicine, but it's learning how to intelligently integrate both. Keeping what works, questioning what doesn't, remaining open, remaining curious, and remaining deeply human. Because Earth was never meant to be a standardized experience. This time ship Earth is a living laboratory of consciousness, of biology, emotion, relationship, environment, and evolution, and your body is not a problem to dominate. Your body is a relationship to learn from. So this week, I want you to take inventory of what actually makes you feel more alive. Not more distracted, not more numb, but alive. Pay attention to what expands your energy versus what contracts it. And ask yourself, if my body is an experience, what kind of experience am I creating today? Thanks for listening to today's episode of Quantumly Kinky with Dr. Veda. Until next time, stay turned on